What's good, fellas? Ivy here, and I'm glad to see y'all again here in the new episode of Metal Mixing Guide. Subject of this one is kind of spontaneous. I didn't really have any references in mind, just overall idea of making something live-ish and authentic, maybe little dirty, uncontrolled and all that, so hope you'll enjoy this one just like I did, 'cause I'm about to show you how this shit is done. So let's start from main guitar template. As you can see here, we use Quadro track, 2 different tone models on board. Check this shit. Let's start from Model A. First thing in chain is Revolver 4 with preset based on Red Hot and Fuzzy. Pretty much all presets I'm gonna use are based on factory preset pack of Revolver, still I might change some things here and there. Anyways, here we use orange kind of amp and cab. Treble booster in front of the shit. Then I use Pro Q to drop the volume in front of NLS, -8 decibels, and we don't get that much of distortion anymore. And here is NLS itself. Plugins from second and third inserts gonna be exactly the same for each guitar. The only difference is used preamps on NLS modules. Mic 1 for A left, Mic 2 for A right, same Mic 2 for B left, and Mic 4 for B right. Speaking of Model B, by the way, same treble booster on pedal board and more kind of Marshall shit, I mean Michael amp and cab. In order to create fuller stereo image, I used hard panning settings for Model A, and Model B goes little closer to center. And now all tracks go to guitar's bus. Here I use little EQ correction to shape the tone the way I wanted it to be. And this last EQ module is 16 decibels attenuator. You don't need to use it if you don't plan to follow full set of stems for mastering. Later you'll get the idea. And then guitar's bus goes to master preview bus. Name speaks for itself. At this stage we only use it to get basic idea of guitar sounding and final mix. We're not gonna go for processing just yet because it's pretty much the same thing as real master from final project excluding reverb and strange Uber mod witchcraft. Since we're done, it's time to export the shit. We need to do it from guitar's bus. Low key with you all, I will also bounce this other arrangement in order to show you something. It doesn't gent at all. No matter what you do, it just doesn't. Some of you may say that I need to use DI box and fresh strings in order to gent. Trust me, I know how to gent. And no, I don't need a fucking DI box for that. I don't need fresh strings either, cause I use EMG81. Shit, I can even record without audio interface and still get sick tone. Even without guitar, there is pin connector, so I just take out PC side protection and plug it to my motherboard, and it sounds even better. Alright, that was a joke. You don't plug it to your motherboard. Obviously my tone is pretty bad, so let's use guitar parts from MMG25 to check that shit. See, there is no any focus at all. Palm mute sounds like a low frequency noise, so I decided to give more variability to this project by making reference tone models. Let's give it a shot. Seems that GarageBand is about to become a thing. So speaking of processing, it's kind of the same thing. We use this preset for Revolver on all guitars. 2 different custom impulses for A and B models. Same NLS patterns, the only difference is that now I used 4 decibels output boost for both GTR-B tracks. And there is also FabFilter Saturn for some saturation on top of the shits. Pretty big amount of drive for GTR-A. Less for GTR-B, and I also used lower mix amount. Last thing I'd wanted to say is that Revolver preset turned out to be a little glitchy. In order to make it work properly, turn off the module and then turn it on again. Do it for other channels and save the project so you won't need to repeat that shit next time. As you can see, now we go to guitar's alter bus. Same equalization. Some more cuts on top. And same optional attenuator at the end. In case if you don't use it, be sure to check the levels. You may want to use limiter to avoid clipping. Same as with main project, we use guitar's bus for export. Not gonna joke around this one. What we use here is just guitar recording pitched whole octave down using offline pitch correction processing. It's possible that your guitar outcome is much different, so if you want to get same response from amps, just record same pattern and match your DI to mine using something like Isotope Ozone. Don't use extreme settings, just try to get more or less transparent curve that still sounds natural. I've made guitar profile with this pattern so you can get the idea of what to play. Once you get the correction curve, keep it until tracking is done, then apply this matching EQ to recorded audio in a way of offline processing. And then you can use pitch correction to shift entire thing 12 semitones down. Once it's done, just place this exact same audio to all tracks. Or if you use actual bass, you can try to match your DI to this pitch example. Anyways, as you can see, we use parallel processing. Names of channels pretty much says it all. Basically it's all about mixing things up so you can't really tell the difference between cheap-ass bass and fake-ass pitched guitar. There is not much to say about processing of bass main and bass side drive. Basically it's just presets with same EQ over it. Bass sub is little controller of low end pressure. With first EQ we get rid of everything but lows. Then compress those lows. Then boost them shits. And then we trim that shit again, just to be sure that it's actually very very low. Another preset here on bass side clean. Some EQ. And short stereo ping pong delay with zero feedback. Moves our bass to the side of stereo. And here is preset used for bass drive. EQ. And some more EQ for whatever reason. Now all channels go to bass bus. First thing here is C4, just to glue things up a little. Then, little cleaning on mids and extreme boost of highs for brightness. Next EQ is automated to work only for this little part at the beginning. When active, it will trim them highs and also cut off side part of stereo. As you can see, I used it only for lo-fi intro part. Limiter will crush the audio and help us to have more control on dynamics. same kind of variable attenuator at the end. Don't worry, we will get to it soon. And from this point we have pretty much the same master preview bus. So once everything is done, just do the export from base bus. Now it's time for drums. Check this out. Same as always, I use Superior Drummer in multi-out mode as our main kit. You can see original output associations here. Let's pass all the boring stuff with samplers, instead I'll put them presets in the additional files pack. Same goes for custom drum map and MIDI. Speaking of velocity, it's constant 127 with little quantization to randomly move them notes off the shit just a little. Now let me switch between channels during playback to let you know how them shit sounds. And before we will go for processing, just keep in mind that equalizers and eighth inserts are all same 16 decibels attenuators. We will need it very soon. So let's go for the shit. On kick I use this simple EQ to make it cleaner and little more powerful. Snare top. Getting rid of two resonances on mid-range together with presence. Proceed with pretty extreme compression and level boost on output. Together with master bus processing, this boost will give us some sort of overdriven color. Snare bottom. All I did here is shorten them hits with SPL Transient Designer. Pretty basic EQ on hi-hat. Here we're getting rid of unwanted lows, dropping them mids and boosting highs for brightness. Rag toms. Simple EQ shape to make it brighter and little cleaner. NLS with plenty amount of drive in order to help toms cut through the mix. Floor toms. Same kind of EQ. Exact same NLS. Overheads. Pretty extreme compression using SSL comp. and then I got rid of some horrible noises. Yes, I know we're talking about authentic kind of garage sounding, so things may sound dirty, but still there's a difference between garage and crack house type of shit, so you know, I'd prefer it to be little cleaner. Same kind of cleaning EQ for ambient close mic. Notching out some dirty stuff on amp far as well. For both stereo kick and snare we use same kind of stereoizer ping pong delay as we did on bass. It will help us to make kick and snare really wide and roomy. And right after I use EQ to make things brighter. Same kind of processing goes for kick. Now all these tracks go to Master 1 bus, while triggers go straight to Master 2, because I wanted it to be uncompressed, sort of on top of the mix to keep some transient details. Starting from kick trigger. Very minor equalization in the first place. To be honest, I'm not sure why I did this. Pretty extreme sample length shortening with SPL Transient Designer. And CLA 76 to focus attacks even more. Exact same processing on snare trigger 1. And again for snare trigger 2, but this time we don't use compressor, and I also used high pass filter to get rid of outstanding lows, basically keeping this trigger nice and sharp. That's it for processing. So now we can add bass and guitar stems to the mix, route it to Master 1 and get more or less final results, so it's possible to finish the song from here. However, because of the fact that entire mix is glued together with terrific amounts of compression, you may want to do stem level automation, which is harder if you don't work with printed audio. Simply because printed shits are predictable and it's always gonna be the same, unlike this MIDI variation, where you have randomization, cymbals decays and all that stuff. So if you don't want to do these steps, check out the levels of mix. Master 1 and Master 2 processing is exactly the same for last steps, so I'll explain it in the next section of video. Again, if you don't want to proceed with full stem mastering, be sure not to use attenuation EQs in previous projects. And if you're up for that extra step, You can attenuate it from here if not earlier. So basically we're going to drop everything 16 decibels down. All because of the fact that higher registered peak level is plus 15 decibels for snare top. Sure, I could just use the limiter, but it could ruin the whole thing. It's supposed to be much louder than anything else. So this way we will have all stems free from clipping, allowing safe transfer of shit between projects. When you're ready, activate all attenuation units, set up them markers and do batch export from all channels except Master 1 and Master 2 buses. And here we are in the final project. You can see that I already imported our stems. Now I just use 16 decibels input boost on every stem track in order to compensate previous attenuation, and it's all in the same level again. I also used this scaling fader in order to make things visible. Same kind of routing, so our triggers go to Master 2 bus, while rest of the mix goes to Master 1. In this case I didn't use any level automation just because the song is too short and there is nothing to emphasize really, but still you get the idea. I don't want you to think that this step is useless. Even if you don't want to do automation, you still get a lot more ACO headroom to be used in, let's say, vocals processing or whatever. Let's finally go for master processing starting from Master 1. First EQ filtering out some sublows of side. Little bit of reverb, it will help to glue things together and add overall ambience feeling. NLS bus for solid overdrive together with limiting. This thing will literally glue our stems together by using analog kind of saturation of mixing console. C6 with factory mastering preset. This element belongs to early versions of mix, where I didn't really have an idea of how it's going to sound like. So at the end of the day I can't say that it really does a lot of compression, more like little spectrum correction. Obviously bands are moving so there is some minor dynamic impact, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. Same trick with Uber mod I used on previous guy's master chain. Basically it's some kind of lo-fi effect for our mix. Extremely hard limiting with dynamic algorithm. Same as NLS, we use it for gluing purposes, but in this case gluing means pumping and heavy limiting. We can do fair comparison simply because I included another gain staging element here, that's why output is not matched to the input. Kramer tape will give us additional saturation and bring our dynamics back to life. Now this bus together with triggers goes to Master 2. Here we use little correction moves with isotope 5 equalizer. I used spectrum capturing to compare the snapshots and then used bands to kind of mimic it, so don't mind me for using this thing instead of ProQ. Next EQ is final touch on spectrum. We don't really need fizzy highs, so I used low pass filter from about 17K plus couple drops on mids for clarity. And final limiter. RMS and peak control here. So that's pretty much it. And for those of you who want to get additional files pack, which includes full set of Cubase projects which I used in this video, pack of impulses, full pack of ProQ presets, same pack of templates for Reaper, preset bank for Revolver 4, pack of source DI and MIDI files together with pack of stems, presets for SSD4 and Superior Drummer with custom drum map for MIDI programming. You will find all of them shits in my private post on Patreon, which will be available after pledging $1. By doing this you will also get access for rest of my private content and help me keep doing what I do. Link is in the description. So hope you learned thing or two from this guide. See you next time.